Karan Katiyar, main man of Bloodywood. Welcome to On VJ's playlist. It's such a pleasure for me to be interviewing you. Although I'm slightly bummed about Jayant and Rahul not joining us, but for fans who are watching this interview, please know that Jayant and Rahul are resting, and rightfully so. Uh, Ever since Bloodywood dropped their album in February 2022, the band has been on an extensive tour across the world, I could say. Karan, is that correct?
That is true, and thank you for the very flattering introduction. It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, first things first, Karan, I think before everything else, firstly, we have big news to celebrate. Aaj and Dana Dan were the two standout tracks from the album Rakshak. They are now the big contenders for the best metal song of 2022 by Metal Hammer in UK. So congratulations, clap, clap. You can please pat yourself on the back. Uh, But how beautifully has this year rolled out for you guys? I mean, you began the year with being nominated as, the best international breakthrough artist at Heavy Music Awards. And as we close the year, here, y'all are contending with literally the best in international metal. So how do you look at, one milestone from the other, and y'all are just hopping onto the ride?
Um, I'd say that we don't take these things too seriously, to be honest, when it comes to awards and lists, because they have a way of getting to your head and putting you in a position where you shouldn't be.
Right.
Um, it, it's imperative for an artist to focus only on the art and not on numbers and not on awards, not on these pedestals that people would put you on.
Hmm.
Sometimes even fans do that, but it's very important to stay grounded if you want to play the long game. It's I'm not saying I don't like it. Of course, everyone likes their names to be on top 10s or top 50s or whatever. But yeah, it's I mean we're not taking it too seriously right now.
But is that easier said than done, Karan? Especially if you all have actually, put in years of hard work. You all have really, made that transition. It wasn't easy. Also, I mean, you all really began with humble beginnings, where literally in the middle of nowhere, you spot a horse and a camel. You hop on, and that's how you guys, you film Punjabi Metal, which went on to catapult you guys to overnight success and limelight. And with all the appreciation and the applause that's been following since then, I mean, is it easier said than done that you don't really take milestones seriously? I mean, of course, you'd want to give yourself that little credit, that okay, we have traveled the distance, so maybe we deserve a moment to ourselves.
Uh, so I think there are several questions in that one phrase. I'll answer them one by one. When
Go
it comes
ahead.
to videos, we still shoot videos like that. We spot something and we'll do it right there and there. Okay. So if we do spot a horse or a camel, you can bet we're gonna get on it again while we shoot. um, the other thing is that I don't think. I mean, yeah, if I'd say every overnight success, seemingly overnight success, is there's a hidden, at least a hidden decade of hard work, and which is not visible at all, which just
Right.
doesn't, it's not visible. It's not. It didn't make it. Unfortunately, we're in this age where if you have something viral, that
Yeah,
means you're successful. All right, but that's not the case.
absolutely.
It's actually a body of work that's successful. It's just that you sometimes the only viral part is visible. So that's the answer to the second part of the question. The I think the third part was, it's easier said than done. It's easier to not take these awards and these lists seriously,
Hmm.
because they come after what you would deem successful as an artist, which in my opinion is being able to play sold out shows across the world. Okay, that's when people come to your show. They're there for you, and that all right, there are people in this part of the world and that part of the world that are going to turn up for us. So that, in my opinion, is success. um, Breaking even is also success when it, when it comes to making albums. That's a lot of money, that's a lot of time and effort. When you break
Absolutely.
even on that, that's also success. Making a living, that's a huge success as an artist. And we're so glad that we're making a living and we're able to do all of this, you know so once you do all of those things, the lists and the awards, they come on their own. So we don't really have to work towards them. We're now so used to working towards what we want that it's actually easier, not easier said than done. It's easier done than said, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. It makes perfect sense. But let's look back. Punjabi metal hits the tube in 2017. RERE follows in summer 2018, and there's a shout out which I'm sure you guys are also, a popular figure shout out that I'm sure that even you guys are tired about, having quoted it in every interview that Bloodywood has given till date. But that happens, and a revolution of
Yeah.
sorts, kind of begins for the genre, for fans of the genre, and for a foursome in Delhi who, you know, till then were, like you rightly said, were looking for their big break, or should I say, were looking for their breakthrough moment. And it
Hmm.
happened with the success of, Punjabi metal and RERE, and there's been no looking back since then.
Yeah.
How do you, and I think it's been a glorious journey for 5 years. So how do you view, this uh, journey that you guys have traveled all the way?
um you know um when you love what you do,
Hmm.
okay, um everything from the past always seems so innocent and so so full of fun and everything. So we always look at all of those things, with a lot of warmth. And sometimes you want to go back to that time also, because as you progress in your career, you got to make a lot of heavy decisions, and they're always running around in your mind, that who do I work with, what do we do next, how fast can we write music to keep up with the modern pace of music and albums. So I'd say we have a very warm, heartfelt connection to everything that we've done in the past. But we know that ev- the present is gonna seem the same when we're in the future. So right now I feel that it's very important to not pressurize ourselves a lot when it comes to our future, and always remember that from the past, and learn from the past, that when you do what you love, and you're having fun, that's when you'll make the best music and the best art, and the best visuals, everything that that a band needs to do today. So it's a journey. It's a journey.
I mean, Bloodywood is known as a band that deploys, elements of folk. Raul does a lot when it comes to hip hop. I
Hmm.
mean, music is not something that is meant to be and should not be slotted into a box. But if you were to describe your genre, is new metal the operating word? Because I know that I think Jen despises, the term new metal. He would like to believe that Bloodywood is a folk metal band. So, do you want to set the record straight then with this regard, so that once and for all, people actually know what is the sound of Bloodywood?
Yeah, well, I think that Jen doesn't despise the term new metal.
Okay,
Um, that's not the case. He would prefer the word folk metal. Everyone would prefer the word folk metal.
okay,
But if you listen to our album in its entirety, uh, there's there's elements of all, so many
yeah.
genres. I won't say all. There's hardcore, there's deathcore stuff. There's a lot of some melodic death metal also in there. But the part that catches your attention the most is probably the new metal section. Okay. uh, and of course the Indian elements when it comes to folk. So we're in a very weird space where we can't answer that question ourselves, and we're asking it ourselves again. But I would say an easy answer would be new folk metal, new Indian folk metal.
Wow.
You know, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
Of
just
course, why not?
impossible to put us strictly into one genre, one
Yeah,
subgenre. But now, we've got like parts that are straight up trap, which has nothing to do with metal at all. So
right.
I don't know what to call it, man. Give, I need help.
But if I believe Jayant in an interview, I'm not sure how recent it is, but when I was looking up, I believe there was a quote where Jayant spoke about how alien weaponry, which is a thrash metal act from New Zealand, um,
Mhm.
they actually sing in Maori, which is one of the local languages of the country. And
Yes, we do.
there's the
Mhm.
Who from Mongolia, the Hugh
Yeah.
or Who, I don't know how you
Who?
pronounce it.
Yeah, the
Um,
Who.
the Who. I think they're also
Yeah.
pretty renowned for deploying folk elements in metal music, and I think these two acts were very huge influences into how Bloodywood and also eventually ended up adapting folk to metal. Is that correct?
No, that's incorrect. We actually started off before the Who,
Yeah.
and when it comes to alien weaponry, um, I'm not sure whether they incorporate their folk instruments,
Right.
because it's only the lyrics that I feel are in Maori. When we started doing our thing, that was probably 2017 when we were exploring, a sound of our own. We wanted to do the whole thing, go the whole way, include Indian rhythms, lyrics, folk instruments, everything, and but not extensively, just
Yeah.
subtly, just tastefully enough for it to be fun for us to play and fun for everyone to listen to. So we did not pick up inspiration from them. Our inspirations, we've mentioned them several times in our interviews before also. A huge part of our influence is, it's very individual, honestly. For Raul, it's Rage Against the Machine. For me,
Yeah.
it's Linkin Park. For Jayant, it's Slipknot. So, you can see that
Very varied.
culmination over there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're very varied, and but it reflects in our music. So, yeah, yeah. We weren't really honestly influenced by any folk metal band. Although I would say LOYT is one of my influences. Yes, it's a folk metal band from Sweden, if I'm not wrong.
But apart from the band you mentioned from Sweden, if I may ask, Karan, as an individual, which are some of the acts that you have followed, when you were taking to the genre, when you were discovering music as, a young child, a
Hmm.
young teenager? So who are some of the
Hmm.
artists that you grew up listening to?
Um, Okay, I obviously have to mention Linkin Park because they were my gateway band into a heavier genre. Before I wasn't even into music as much. It's just their
Okay.
music. It hit me in a very different on a very different level. So definitely Linkin Park takes the prize. Then of course I had a huge I have a long list of metalcore influences. There's As I Lay Dying, that takes the cake. Then Killswitch Engage. When it comes to melodic death metal, I absolutely love INSOMNIUM. They're the only band in melodic death metal that I like, but it's one of my favorite bands. Um, and then on the heavier side, there's All Shall Perish and Decapitated. It's a long list. Yeah, we could talk about this for hours and hours, but I'd say that this is probably this is the top 10.
Top
It's
of the
my
mind
top 10.
recall.
Yeah.
I would just slightly tweak my question and ask the same when it comes to some of the Indian metal acts, because I believe Bloodywood has always maintained that for a lot of people the genre may seem a
Mhm.
very niche and a very small sized community in the country. But I think
Mhm.
Bloodywood likes to believe that the genre is very tightly knit. Everybody's looking out for one another, and
Yeah.
that you will always find those very people, at every metal gig that is announced in the country. So who are
Yes.
some of the acts that Bloodywood looks up to from the Indian metal space?
Okay. I can't speak for the rest, but
Yeah.
um, for me, Sky Harbor was a massive influence. Not in terms of music, but in terms of inspiration. They were just a major source of inspiration for me because they were the first act, I believe, to truly break out of India. Um, then the other acts that I love, I have recently really started liking THAIKKUDAM Bridge. I in fact heard their music for the first time live when we played with them at Independence Rock, and the vibe they create is just so majestic. I love them. Then I would say another band that I really like is Pineapple Express. You know, they have some their music is the 200 IQ music. So but they're also very catchy, so I really like how they write, and I'm a big fan of their songwriting. um Otherwise, of course, everyone in the Indian music, like the Indian metal scene, has heard of Demonic Resurrection, even though they weren't an influence for me musically, but of course, definitely a source of inspiration when I was starting out. And yeah, I mean, I do keep coming across artists, but I haven't followed up a lot because at the point where I am, and I'm sure where the rest of the guys are, we kind of have to limit how much music we listen to because we're always around it so much. And I got tinnitus in this year, and now I'm just focusing on writing rather than listening. So yeah, that would be the list when it comes to India for me.
Let's talk about how your home city, Delhi, has been. How
Mm-hmm.
instrumental has it been in shaping your journey as a as an act? Because I'm sure at the end of all the touring, all the social interactions, when you come back home, when Bloodywood as a band, when members of the band are resting out and recouping, there's
Mm-hmm.
always the element of your city in you. So if I may have to ask you, what's the most Delhi thing about the band? What's the most Delhi thing, which is very obvious that people will instantly take to when they meet Bloodywood in person?
Uh, yeah. The most Delhi thing about us is the amount we curse in Hindi. Yeah, it's hard for people to be around us. It's so hard for there's this thing that we do whenever we check into a hotel. We first check if there's a pool, okay? And if there's a pool and if we've got time for sound check or whatever, everyone jumps in and we play a game of you know batshit volleyball that we invented ourselves. All the rules are ours, and we call it the Calamari Cup. Don't ask why. And when we when we're playing that game, all right, no one can be around us because it is so vulgar. It is
Oh
so
God.
disgusting that you just can't be around us at that time. But that's again, it's probably the most Delhi thing, but it's also for between us, it's very light-hearted, even though it might seem very aggressive to an outsider. But yeah,
Well,
that's
if
probably the
when
most
you're
Delhi.
speaking about aggression, I think for our viewers who do not know, just before we started filming this interview, I was speaking about how the first ever metal gig that I have attended in all these years of having interacted with artists was the Gutslit act at the NH. That's the recently concluded 13th edition of the NH7 weekend in Pune. And Gutslit was
Yeah.
just performing, a little before Bloodywood is to take stage on another arena. And oh God, like I don't know where to even begin. Like when um I used to only hear about concepts about mosh pit. Like
Oh.
चार लोग अगल बगल में बोलेंगे कि आज हमने तो mosh pit किया. And that is the first time I've stood near the barricade and I've literally witnessed mosh pits and a wall
Uh-huh.
of death, and toilet papers being flung in the air, and all the paraphernalia that followed. I'm like, what is this? And then they I think champagne bottles also were open at one point, and I'm like, and I was feeling tacky. I was feeling tacky at the end of that set. but but if I have to ask you, Karan, do you recount an experience like that it was so, it was all ballistic and berserk, uh, you know the kind of things that roll out at a metal gig? Have you ever had an experience that was like beyond your imagination?
Yes, it is surprisingly similar to yours. So my first exposure to my first ever live concert
Right.
was a, a metal gig. It was in IIT Delhi. It was a competition. They used to have these band competitions at that time, and this band from Delhi, Gates of Assault, was playing. Okay, and I was the only guy in a white shirt. Everyone else around me were in, they had long hair. They had these t-shirts like these, the ones that I'm wearing now, 10 years later. And um, and when they started playing, immediately the crowd started moshing. And I thought there was, and I was somewhere, I got caught in between, and I thought it's two groups of people fighting. But then I realized everyone's smiling, and everyone's just, if someone's falling down, they're picking them up and pushing them again. And that's when I realized, okay, this is actually a form of enjoying yourselves, enjoying the music. It's a very primal way of expressing yourself aggressively, but also in a very compassionate way, that if some guy falls down, you pick them up. You don't punch anyone, you don't hit anyone, you shove them into the other person. But it's so tribal. And I fell in love with the genre. I just fell in love with the concept of live metal gigs, that I attended so many of them after. And I was the guy who was on that night, moshing my ass off till the last band. Everyone else had quit, but I was the generic white guy, a generic white t-shirt guy, not white guy, wearing the white t-shirt guy, that everyone was pointing out and laughing. Like, look at this guy, he's headbanging for the first time in his life. He's gonna have such a sore neck next day. And yeah, I did. So yeah, a very similar experience. But I just fell in love in 5 seconds of it. So yeah.
Well, because you said that our experiences were eerily similar, I have to tell you that even I was wearing a white tee. It can't get similar than that.
you
Sorry,
know, when you wear a white shirt or a white t-shirt or whatever white, you know, the first people to spot you are the band, and they know that you're in for a really nice ride tonight.
but I was being the mother hen at Gutslit gig. I was looking out for all the girls. I was like, listen, side, whatever, just watch your head, watch you move. I was literally being the mother hen in the crowd, because I am looking at what's happening behind me, because I was standing right next to the barricade, and
Yeah,
the action is unfolding behind me, and part of me is like, I can't even look at Gutslit on the stage, because I am trying to look behind and ensure nobody is hurting me, or nobody's coming my way, because I also have enough rage in me. It's like, if somebody even just tries to nudge me, and I'm like, I'll
yeah,
I
yeah,
can get very nasty and
yeah.
violent.
That
Uh,
happens. Yes, that
I'm sure
happens.
I'm sure the 4 or 5 select friends of mine who might be watching this interview will be like, yes, VJ, we know how much rage you have. To Bloodywood and its
Yeah.
shenanigans. I think with Rakshak, clearly you guys have cemented your position as the most pioneering metal act right now, currently in the country. I think even now with the nomination that we spoke about, at the start of the interview for Metal Hammer UK, while Aaj and Dana Dan are nominated, I think fans in the comment section on your social media pages are like, we would have loved to have seen Gadar over there. And I think some people are also talking about Machi Bhasad in the same tone. There's also G. Veere, which has made such a significant impact, in terms of mental health
Mhm.
how do you guys look at, this kind of fan belonging and this kind of fan warmth that, the band has managed to gather?
we're we're grateful every day. We believe that we've been, yeah, there's an element of hard work, but you can't ignore the fact that we've also been extremely lucky. You know, um, we just got, I think our music connected with the right kind of people at the right time, and the fans that we have, uh, they're the most hardcore I've seen. Amongst the most hardcore I've seen, because I've heard K-pop fans can be extremely hardcore, but yeah, our fans can also, you know, can be very very defensive and very supportive at the same time of the band. So we are extremely lucky. We are here because of them. They support us to degrees I've not heard of before. For example, when we were shooting for a spot in Billboard, because that's one of the lists that we we wanted to be on. So our fans actually bought like 50 copies, 100 copies, stuff like that. So of the album. Who does that? Who does that? I don't know. They're just so amazing. Uh, when we get to meet them in our shows, just hearing some of them, tell us how they were about to quit, uh, in they were about to quit life in general, and then
Yeah.
they made it through because of our music, and they're there to thank us. It's suddenly it's such a grounding experience. You you tend to kind of live in a dream when you're on tour. You're not yourself. It's a very weird, very inhuman thing, not in a bad way, but it's just
Yeah.
very weird. Okay, it takes you to a very different mindset, and you're not thinking straight. And when someone tells us a story like that, it's like someone just sucked you back into your body.
Right.
You're back on ground zero, and you realize, oh, this is where I am, this is what I do, and this is why I'm going to keep doing it in the future. So it's we're absolutely grateful, the most grateful to our fans, and we owe them everything. So yeah, don't mess with our fans or us.
Mat lo panga.
मत लो पंगा.
I have to come back to your album Rakshak. Uh, 10 songs. I'm sure there was that one song when you guys were doing it, it gave you sleepless nights. It seemed like it was never going to be, it was never going to get completed. You're already laughing even before I complete the question. So there definitely is one or more than one. But do you remember that one song that seemed like, अरे यार ये कभी खत्म नहीं होने वाला, but when it came out, that was a song that drew in the maximum applause, that actually drew the most overwhelming response for you as a band.
There were, so all the songs in the album gave us sleepless nights. Okay, there were points in time where we were gonna drop each and every one of them individually. Okay,
Oh God.
but thing is that we don't give up on our songs. We always, like, even if we hate it in the moment, uh, you know we know that the end result's going to be good, because that's how we roll. So it's one of those things when if you look midway through a surgery, it looks like someone committed a murder, right?
Hey.
So midway, yeah. So midway through writing a song, it's gonna sound horrible. It's gonna sound like this is never gonna make it. But you just gotta persist, man. You just gotta persist, right? So, but there's this one song that really, you know, it 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 made my life hell for a while. That song was Aaj. It was the second
I
song that
was
we released.
guessing with all the I mean, sorry to interrupt you here, but the with the build up that you made, and I don't know why, like the lyrics of Aaj, crushed up like a diamond in the rough. I
Yeah.
think those lines kind of define what Aaj was about and why it seems to be the most difficult song that in your opinion, that you worked upon in Rakshak. But yeah, you were saying so.
Yeah. It was definitely that. That was the one song. that takes the cake when it comes to giving us sleepless nights and just making our life hell in general. But I am so glad that we finished that song because it's one of my favorites from the album. And it's even though it's not it's maybe the second most popular song in the album or the third most popular song in the album, but it's it might I might just commit to this, but it is probably my favorite song of the album. So uh it, it's just it's one of those things where you just absolutely have to persist, and you absolutely have to try each and everything, each and every trick in the book, throw in the kitchen sink also, and just power through. And it came out so beautifully. I'm so proud of that song, and I'm so glad we didn't give up on it. But to answer your question, yes, Aaj is definitely that song. Yeah.
And personally, Aaj is the song that I really love from the album. And for those who do not know, I also have my own playlist on Spotify, which I curate once in a week or once in 2 weeks, and it has over 500 songs in it. And I'm happy to say that Aaj is the Bloodywood song that I have placed on that playlist, because when I first heard
Right.
it, thank, thank you. When I first heard it, uh, I was like, wow, this is introspective also. And for someone like me personally who has, uh, forget being a fan of the genre, someone who has never really proactively heard a lot of metal music in her life, uh, and that's largely because, for like many, I was pretty averse to this genre also. I found it very noisy for a person like me. Uh, so when I first heard Aaj, for me, it was like, okay, uh, this is a metal song, but it's also
Very much.
it's no, but I wouldn't use the word, but this was the one that was also slightly comforting, like inviting you, like, okay, settle in. Even though you may not be a fan of the genre, but we're not going to like turn you off. So I think that's what Arch did to me, and that's why I'm happy to say that that's one of the songs I like. But when I hear
Mhm.
Danadan,
Mm.
especially that chorus, only the way it goes, Danadan, Danadan, I'm like, when I hear that, I'm like, this really sounds like uh, an angry Tamil, kuttu hook, or like something that could be played at your local Ganpati Visarjan, because it's so groovy. It's such a dancey hook. You just cannot like. Like I'm going like this whenever I hear that bit. So I cannot even imagine the the euphoria and the atmosphere that you guys create every time you perform that on stage. What do you have to say about that, Karan?
Danadan is that song where we let loose in terms of anger, everything that was pent up inside us. We literally had this discussion before the song that this is one of the, before we completed or, started working. So how we work on songs is, generally I start with an instrumental idea. I write most of it till, I let other people listen to it, and then, then we decide whether we want to take this song forward or not. And with Danadan, it's just 1000% aggression. We were like, okay, we're not known to be a very aggressive band, even though metal is an aggressive genre. But this is that one song where we're not gonna hold back. And Rahul and Jayan, they delivered so well in that song. It's one of our favorites to play live because in our opinion, it it evokes that visceral response from the audience. Everyone's like, they don't know what we're saying, they don't know the language, but
Yeah.
they understand in a way, that there is this is one of the songs that you just need to let loose to. And if you look up any of the videos where we play live, you'll see that in the audience they go absolutely nuts when we start that song, and when the chorus hits, and all the breakdowns and all the melodies and the riffs, they love it. So we do too. It was that one song where we just did not hold back at all.
But when you guys were writing that song, you say that anger is the primary emotion. So do you want to give us an idea about what was it? Where was that rage coming from, or what was the stimulus behind that kind of anger?
So, um, you know, being a woman, you'd understand that this country is not like the rest. You know, there are certain things that you have to deal with more than us when it comes to guys, right? Yeah, absolutely. So, when the women in our lives, when they tell us the stories of how, someone harassed them when they were alone, when we weren't around, when they had a hard time coming back home, they were on edge because of something happened or some incident, someone's eve teasing them or something like that. It's that anger that, you can't always be there for them. You can't always be there around them. They have their own lives to live. But when they do go out on their own, or when we're not around and we can't intervene or we can't be there to protect, it's that anger that you feel, inside, that, you know fuck, I wish I was there. It's that. Can I curse? I'm sorry.
Go
So,
ahead, go ahead.
okay, so it's that anger. It's that anger in that, uh, towards that patriarchal mindset, towards that, towards the culture, in wherein, women are placed below men in our society. And it's considered okay to, and sometimes even cool to, eve tease women in certain groups of men. When politicians, they pass off things as, ye to hote rehta hai, all of that stuff, this is, normal. It's just all of that anger that builds up. And it's not like, we wrote the song, and that anger got
Yeah.
away. I think it's kind of the opposite. We feel even more angry now. So that was one emotion that we really wanted to talk about. And I can understand how uh, it's not the case everywhere. I can understand it's not the case uh, globally. But you know sexual assault as a problem in general is a global problem.
It is.
It's not specific to women also, it's men also, who sometimes go through this.
I agree.
Our focus was primarily towards women because we're from India. We know what's happening over here. We hear these stories every day from the women in our lives. So that's where, that's where the aggression comes from you know
Lastly, Karan, just to end a very, very gratifying interview, you've had an eventful 2022 in terms of the tours and the fests that have been done. As we speak, just today, the Lollapalooza day-wise lineup has been announced. Prior to that, you have Indie Gaga at the Bolgati Palace in Kochi, and then you have a massive tour lined up in March, which already I think shows which have been sold out a year in advance.
Yep.
How are you looking at what are the big plans for you and the band in 2023?
Well, if you thought 22 was busy, 23 is gonna be nuts. It's gonna be a first for, it's gonna take a lot of first for an Indian artist checkbox, because the tour that you speak of is just one of the four tours that we're doing next year. So
Wow.
yes, and we've got a lot of amazing things that are gonna happen in 23. I so wish I could talk to you about them, but there are NDAs I've signed. But it's gonna be a massive year, which is why, we're taking this little break that we can, because we know we're gonna hate it by the end of the year, but it's all gonna be worth it. So right now, I can only so the tours I can tell you about are, of course, the March tour, which is the EU UK headline tour.
Hmm.
Right after that, we will possibly head into the US for another month-long tour, and
Okay.
then possibly one more country which I can't name right now. And then we're gonna go to Europe and UK again. That's a festival tour. The festivals have already been announced. Download, Grass Pop. There are several more to be announced. And then we come back and we start working on our next album. But that
Wow.
doesn't mean it's the end of 23, because the latter half of 23 has some very, very exciting things in store. So I wish I could talk about them. I'm sorry. I have to
No,
be so short, but yeah.
I'll just say, let's be as Indian about this as we can. Let's not jinx it.
Uh, all right, let's not jinx it. Yes, I agree.
Well, all I'd say is, Karan, hate it and slay it. Be bloody good, bloody wood, like you guys always are. Thank you so much for talking to me. This has been such a fun chat. And for our viewers who are watching this, this is the 37th episode of On VJ's playlist. And with that, we sign off. Uh, we sign off the year 2022. Happy holidays to everybody. Happy holidays, Karan, to you and to the band members. And hope to see everybody on the other side in 2023. Thank you so much for watching.
Cheers.
Yes.